Well, I'd like to thank you very much for joining me today on These Changing Times Radio. I am Karen Quinn Tostado, and I am stepping back into speaking out. Some of you may know me from UnitedWeStrike.com, and I was a co-founder of that. Actually, I've been speaking up from about 2006, I believe, doing online radio, and then in 2008 in December came up with the idea for taxfree15.com, and that morphed into UnitedWeStrike.com, which still is continuing and has monthly marathons. However, I stepped back in June of 2013 because I needed a break. As people who have been in the resistance will understand, it gets to you after a while when things don't seem to be happening the way that you'd like them to, and when you see all of the crime that is just continuous through the government. And so I did have to step back, and I am glad that I did. I took some much needed time. But now, with the rise of these ancient prophecies that are being fulfilled, I felt it very necessary to again raise my voice. Okay, do I sound like I'm talking in a tunnel? I'm looking at the chat room. Hopefully not. But anyway, I was talking to Patty recently. She had stepped back as well, and we've kind of periodically kept in touch through Skype over these years. And when she said that she was bringing These Changing Times back, I just automatically asked if I could be included, because it seems to me that it is time to start really speaking up. I'm sorry if the sound is choppy. It should be okay. But what is happening all around the world now is people are waking up. And I believe very firmly that these are the end times, either for the people or for the corporations. And there is an old Lakota prophecy that said an old Lakota prophecy of a black snake, a creature that would rise from the deep, bringing with it great sorrow and great destruction. For many years, the Lakota people wondered what that prophecy meant. But it has all come to be known now as the Dakota Access Pipeline. What better description for a prophecy than a black snake to be coming for your water in the end times? And so now this has united people from all over the world in resistance. The indigenous people have always been trying to resist the corporate powers that are just decimating the planet. So at this time, at this really important time in history, it is so very vital for us to really embrace the truth and to begin to recognize what is truly important in our lives. And it doesn't mean voting for a ruler. It means voting for water and voting for ourselves. Because for the first time in a lot of years, I have hope, and I didn't have any, and I do have hope because there are also other predictions from the Cree and the Hopi and the Zuni, among others. But the rainbow prophecy, as it has come to be known, refers to the keepers of the legends, rituals, and other myths that will be needed when the time comes to restore the health on earth. Excuse me. It is believed that these legendary beings will return on a day of awakening when all people will unite and create a world of justice, peace, and freedom, and they will be named warriors of the rainbow. They will reteach the values and the knowledge that has been lost in time, demonstrating how to have wisdom and extra perception, how unity, harmony, and love is the only way forward. And now that we see the resistance happening in Standing Rock, the peaceful resistance, these are the rainbow warriors in action. This is the beginning of turning the tide, in my opinion, because this has finally called every tribe to awaken. And as well, there are Incan tribes. An Incan prophecy tells us that when the indigenous communities of the eagle in the north and the condor in the south come together, the earth will awaken, and that neither the eagle nor the condor can be free without each other. And in September, some of these people from the Ecuadorian Amazon traveled to North Dakota to stand with Standing Rock against the DAPL. So this is uniting people all over the world, and indigenous tribes all over the world. And so we've got to come together and start to realize what we can do through peaceful means. We do have to resist. And my guest today is Gypsie, and she is someone who has been on my mailing list, and she started responding to some of my emails with information about de jure juries. Now, usually I am totally against anything that has to do with the establishment, with the game as it is, because I think that we need to recreate our own game. We need to walk away from all their systems, because their systems have been set up to purposefully take us out of our own sovereignty, out of our own mind, out of our own heart, and make us just a slave to the corporate system. So, Gypsie, I'd like to bring you on now, and if you tell us, please, what woke you up, first of all, to the knowledge that the earth wasn't quite what you thought it was, the way that we were living wasn't quite what you thought it was supposed to be. What is the first thing that made you actually start paying attention?
Hi, thanks, Karen. I think we've all had these little revelations now and again throughout our lives, and, it begins in small ways, like, why is it against the law to cross the street when there's no traffic? Why would you get a ticket for jaywalking when there's no danger, there's no cars? Why are plants illegal to grow? And why would ingesting them for medication purposes be illegal? And, you can be really taken into jail and put in a cage for that. But I think all those things kind of made me think about questioning the system. But I think the real awakening happened when I was in Hawaii. And I was approached by some local Hawaiian people, and apparently there's I've heard about the locals not having good reception towards the Westerners, and I didn't really understand why. But that eventually I came to find out why, and the locals were telling me that, oh, well, Hawaii was never a 50th state like we were led to believe, and that it is still a sovereign kingdom, and it's still intact. And so at first I couldn't believe it, because, this is against everything that we've been taught and that we've been told that is true. And, so I started researching, and my research did in fact confirm that the Hawaiian Islands there was never a treaty, there was never an annexation. So just because, you go to your neighbor's house and then you set up shop and then you put out in your media, the media that you own, and saying, oh, well, this is now my house. Is it lawful? Is it right? And do you have jurisdiction over that? So that was a big awakening for me. And then, another big awakening was campaigning for Ron Paul. And this is where, this is when I still believe in the democratic process of voting, and to personally witness election fraud where votes were counted behind closed doors and people were bussed around and getting lost so they couldn't vote. That kind of thing, again, led me to more investigation. And a website that I highly recommend is USA versus US.info. That's USA vs US.info. And it gives side-by-side comparisons between the de jure, which is, the true country we call America, versus the U.S. corporation, which is an international for-profit corporation that has nothing to do with government at all. But once again, we've been taught to believe that this is who our government is. And another tidbit for people who are, wanting to investigate, do a search on Rod Class. And he apparently had 4 administrative rulings that have proven that the United States is not our government. And in fact, the American government sits empty. It's vacant. No one's there. And so I did more and more investigation. And at first, it seems like such a big problem. And I think with a lot of the patriots and people who have been, looking for answers, I kind of went into a depression and thinking that, the quagmire is just so deep and it is so vast. And how do we fix this? Is there even a remedy? And so, I went underground and I went back up and in and out and just couldn't figure out, where we're at, because we seem stuck in this matrix where, it isn't real. It feels real. And what we've all been told, we take as reality and we take as truth, but in fact, it's not. So I guess, when I felt that there was remedy was when I came across information regarding common law. And I felt like, a lot of the problems that we're dealing with have to do with the court system. And this is when people were getting, I guess, what's the word? Defrauded so badly that, people are losing homes or losing their families or losing their livelihood. Because for what? I've sat in traffic court and I've seen people in orange suits and shackles, and their crime was that they were too poor to pay insurance. And so they end up losing their jobs, they end up losing their homes and then their families, all because somebody is not able to pay car insurance. And so those are little things that add up to a lot for me in trying to, research for a way out. And so when I came across information regarding common law, and, I spent all my waking time just researching, and, once you get a glimpse of the truth, it's like, you can't go back and unknow something. But common law, I believe at this point, unless, I learn otherwise, is an option for us to bypass the corrupt system and bring back justice, to any wrongs. And there are a couple of, websites that explains it well. One is by Bill Thornton, 1215.org. But who I really spend a lot of time listening to is Carl Lentz on YouTube. He does have a website, but he's not a very technologically, skilled person like me. And so, his website is a little convoluted, but you can find a lot of information off of YouTube. Carl Lentz with a K, K-A-R-L-L-E-N-T-Z, and he has a way of explaining it that is, simple and comprehensible to the average person. But in common law, which is afforded to us, not that we need the Constitution to give us rights, because people have unlimited, unalienable rights. We have all rights. Other than harming somebody. If you harm someone, then of course you're going to be accountable. But other than that, rules and laws and regulations don't apply to us. So in common law, the difference is that it's part of the republic versus a democracy. And this is another, misconception that we've all led to believe. The republic is where individual rights reign. So you as an individual have the capacity, once again, to do anything you wish, as long as it doesn't harm another. And democracy is basically mob rule. So, in this society, we've been pushed to believe that we're democracy, and we're just not. And anybody who has learned what was it?
It's okay.
I know in the classroom they used to do this. The Pledge of Allegiance. Nowhere in the Pledge of Allegiance does it say, to the democracy. We are a republic where we honor individual rights versus mob rule. And so the difference between republic and democracy, and this is where under the republic, it's a de jure system, and de jure means the actual, the real, versus the de facto. And de facto is like the real thing, but it's not. So under republic, we have lawful rules. Once again, if there's no injury, if there's no loss, if there's no injured party, there's no crime. Versus the legal in a democracy. And in the republic, there's no bar lawyers. There are no one in a black dress that dictate, to us what's right and what's wrong and makes all the decisions. The judges are actually the juries. And the juries look at the documentation and evidence, and they decide, what's right and what's not.
Well, now my understanding, oops, there's an echo there, of how we even got into this is that we've been bamboozled so badly we actually think we won the Revolutionary War. However, never in history has any other country won a war and been in debt to the countries that they were fighting, or still in debt and owed, the Bank of England. And we do. And so after also a year after we supposedly won, then King George sent over 100 legal advisors who took us out of common law, where you have to show harm, injury, or loss in order for there to be a crime at all. And they took us and they put us into the statutes, which is where we find ourselves now. And the bar is the British accredited registry. There's so much going on that we really don't know. I mean, we're still paying the Queen. She gets part of our Social Security. We are English subjects. We just think that we're not. So it's pretty amazing to me that we've come so far, so many years, and we still know so little about how we're being controlled. So one thing that I want to do, Gypsy, here is when we're talking about this and we're relating this back to Standing Rock, what I'd like to do now is jump to a letter here by Anna von Reitz. Now, Gypsy sent me this link, and it's important, I think, to get this out. I know we just have an hour here today, and hopefully Gypsy will decide to join these changing times. And I also want to say thank you very much, and hi, Tracy. Thank you, listeners at Trace Elements, for also tuning in today. But hopefully Gypsy will decide that she wants a spot as well, because she has a whole lot of information to share. And when we're talking about what to do, this is what Anna von Reitz says. When there is an argument about money, don't try and make it into an argument about morals. Reply in kind. Some corrupt, federated, and incorporated fake country governments have seen a way to line their pockets with money from pipeline company and oil company profits. So they cut a deal allowing these corporations to put a pipeline through. The problem for these corrupt county organizations is they are just franchises like a Dairy Queen of parent corporations in the governmental services business. They don't actually have anything to say about it if the people from their own unincorporated land jurisdiction county assemble and say otherwise. We dealt with the same problem in Nebraska, but did it intelligently. We called public meetings in the affected counties. The people came from miles around. The options were fully disclosed. The people said, hey, okay, you want to put a pipeline through our land? First, we want $800 million as an accident insurance fund deposited in these local banks under the control of these 3 designated insurance fund trustees, appointed by us to provide immediate cleanup and spill control in the event of any accidents. Second, we want another $500 million infrastructure, another $500 million infrastructure improvement fund deposited in these local banks, XYZ, to pay for all the infrastructure that needs to be built in support of the communities impacted by these activities. Third, we need a PILT, a payment in lieu of other taxes, to pay for public education and ecological monitoring and increased county services. The oil companies and pipeline companies don't understand morals or ethics or the need for clean water or peace or decency or anything else. All they understand is money. And when the people who actually own the land stand up and make them an offer that they can't swallow, an offer that costs too much to make their pipeline profitable, they readily back away and find other ways to transport oil. The problem with Standing Rock is that the people aren't using their common sense and aren't replying in kind to these weasels. The oil and pipeline companies are talking oil and the people are talking water. The other problem is that the people in these counties are letting fake counties, incorporated counties that only have a proprietary, and that is caretaker role and interest, to make deals on their behalf, which are contrary to what the people who actually own the land want to have happen. It's like hiring somebody to run your cattle ranch, then having him decide that he wants to raise sheep instead and you not having the brains enough to correct your own employees. Hello, these people work for you. You are paying their paychecks. If you don't want to raise sheep on your land, or in this case, don't want profit from letting a pipeline cross your land, tell the pipeline companies the truth. The land belongs to the people, not to the county commissioners. So the pipeline companies made a deal with the wrong folks. Turns out the actual entitlement holders of the land don't approve of what their hired help agreed to. Hold a public assembly of the unincorporated county in each of the impacted counties. That is, the actual counties where the people live, not a county that exists only on paper. Describe the options, put it to a vote, make the pipeline company an offer that it can't possibly make money on, and watch them reroute their operations. It's simple, it's easy, there's no reason for all this drama and people getting hurt. Okay, now I'm going to stop right there and kick this over now to Gypsie. So here, I'll post the link for that article. Now, Gypsie, you sent this to me, and you are saying that your research turns out that the people can actually start to hold their own meetings, which are called assemblies, and to actually take back their power. How does this work?
First, I have to say that I'm no expert on this, but the research that I've done in looking at a remedy, I did go through a website called the First with a 1ST, First Michigan Assembly.info, and apparently Michigan has initiated this protocol 3-4 years back successfully. And as I mentioned before about Rod Class, verifying that there are no government officials for America, this is what Judge Anna von Reitz is saying is that, okay, if you don't want the corrupt system, you've got to replace it with something else. And I believe this is something else has always been there, but that, we've been ignorant to it. We didn't care because, things were good once upon a time. And now it's not so good anymore. So we have to explore different ways of returning back to the de jure, to the republic. And so the problems in Dakota is very reminiscent, and it parallels what's happening, is happening in Hawaii, because there has been a conflict up in the mountain, Mauna Kea. I don't know if you've heard of it, but the native Hawaiians have been standing up to the the people, the corporations who want to install astronomy centers up on top of the mountain, which they considered sacred, and also, where water comes from, flows down into the valleys for usage. And so that's another thing that they have been undergoing that is parallel to Standing Rock right now. And so we've seen this happen and play out here in Hawaii. And, I've seen what happened. People were arrested. And so I keep reaching out to the people who have been arrested, not just for that issue, but any legal issues that, people are facing. And the remedy is common law once again. And, you can't have a crime unless there's an injured man or woman. So all these people who have been arrested and, for whatever reason that they make up, there's no injured party. The state cannot be an injured party because they are corporation. Corporations are fictional characters. They're not real. And so for a crime to occur, there has to be an injured party indicating and providing proof that there is harm done to them or injury done. And in none of those cases, that is not the case. And so what happens when the people are now injured, who have been shackled, who have been harassed, who have been taken to a cage and locked up, now they're the injured parties. And then they can file common law claims against those who trespassed against them.
So that means that all these people who are peacefully protesting, who they turned water cannons on last night when it's freezing cold out there, they're treating them really horrifically. So they do have remedy. And I have a question for you here, Gypsie, as well, because we do need to get into this with holding the individuals accountable. We've got to do that. But Patty wanted to know if this applies to sovereign people on sovereign land.
What do you mean, sovereign people? All people are sovereign. And government cannot own land. And that's in the Constitution. And for people who don't realize, there are two separate constitutions. One for the U.S. Incorporated, the corporation, and the other is the original organic Constitution. I'm sorry, I'm getting background. I'm going to mute myself out. Why don't you continue talking, and then I'll try to get back in.
Okay, yeah, it sounded like you got a motorcycle starting next to you, though. But so it's interesting to me, the problems that I see, and actually my husband pointed out earlier, when you're talking about trying to take your land back and having the de jure juries. I mean, I know that the Act of 1871 turned us into a corporation, turned the United States into a corporation. And so since then, like all the people who voted for the president of the corporation of the United States. Yeah, not anything else. And it's just a figurehead. And like Trump is one of the worst, he's heavily invested in this pipeline. And the people really are being harmed there. So I believe that we've got to start taking individual names, and then we got to start nailing them in the common law court. So now how would you suggest that we go about stopping these order followers from harming us?
Well, I think, what I suggest to people here who have been harmed is to file a common law claim. So everyone who had been harmed in any way, they need to file a claim against the perpetrators, the wrongdoers. Because like you said, accountability is huge, and we have zero of that. Just because, somebody is a public figure does not mean they're immune. There is no immunity. And so if anything else,
unless you're Hillary Clinton, sorry.
Right.
Maybe there's a drone with her name on it somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah, but I think once we start holding people, because, the police, ultimately they're women. They go to work 8 hours a day, and then they, after that they discard their uniform, and they're men and women who cannot do wrong to another man or woman. And so until they are held accountable, there is no justice. And it's very simply done. And this is why, I appeal to people to do the research. And of course, I've been researching for a long time. And so I've kind of condensed it to where I think, the important websites are, or the important documents that people need to look at so that they don't waste all, the time like I have.
Patty put in a really important point here. And that is, the land of the Standing Rock people is separate, though, from the U.S. government. No laws have precedent, supposedly, on Indian land. So now that's an interesting aside. That should mean that these corporations have absolutely no business there. However, they're there. Just like they can use eminent domain to kick you off if they want your land. But it's interesting then that the Indian land, so no laws. So still though, well, what do you think about that?
Well, it's even worse than that, because we keep forgetting that the U.S. is, the government is our government. They're not. The U.S. only has jurisdiction over 10 square miles in Washington, D.C. No more than that. So all their rules and laws and statutes and regulations only apply to citizens of Washington, D.C. No one else.
District of Criminals. Although
Right.
you can't really, they'll send their order followers to get you. So it is important that the people that are out there at Standing Rock and the people who are being oppressed, it's really important to find the names of these individuals, to start doing what they can to take pictures of the name tags and to get the information out there. So these people who are causing harm, these people who are pressing the button to send the water at night in freezing temperature out to, elders and the women and children who are out there bravely standing peacefully and simply trying to clear their land, which was their land initially before it was stolen again. We got to move beyond the paper and all the rest of it. But to begin with, we do have to take some steps. So let's go back then again. So where would you start with this?
Well, it's difficult to, establish the names of the actual, wrongdoers who actually, spraying people with water and having dogs attack people. Because nowadays they would hide their names, they would hide their badges, and they would go underground that way. So I say, why not, take it off at the top, at the head. So who is the governor of North Dakota that it's allowing this to happen? He needs to be held accountable, or her, because he allowed this to happen. And then who is the CEO of the corporation that is, ordering this kind of wrongdoing? So I would attack it at the head. And all those people who have been arrested, who were they charged by? Normally, it's by a prosecutor, and that prosecutor has a name because it's a man or a woman, ultimately. So what you can do is file a claim against them for wrongdoing because, they're filing false charges. And I have one case of possible success, and I say possible because I don't really know for sure. But a local case here, whereas I know somebody who was arrested on a criminal drug case, and I'm not talking about, just running a red light or anything. This is a criminal drug case. And I asked the man, and I said, well, did you harm anyone? Did you injure anyone? He said, no. And so because, what I've been trying to teach other people, nobody's willing to do. So I said, well, I will help you. If you want me to, I'll help you file a claim. And so that's what I did. While he was in jail, I filed a common law claim for him. And about a month later, the prosecutor filed a nolle prosecute. That means do not prosecute. So essentially, they dropped the case against him. And how many cases have you known where, it's a criminal case that they just dropped the case? I mean, they would prosecute people for jaywalking or not having insurance and shackle them, but yet, they chose to drop this case. And so for me, that was something significant. But unfortunately,
So you're talking about them going to the boss of the person who's actually, okay, so Joe Smith is out here on the front line, and Joe Smith is the one who used a baton on somebody's head. But Joe Smith is under the jurisdiction of Bob Jones, who's standing out. So you would sue Bob Jones.
Exactly. And what if 400 people sued Bob Jones in their own individual capacity against the man, Bob Jones? What's Bob Jones going to do?
Well, okay, but what about the guy who's on the front lines who actually did cause the harm, who hit him with a baton?
Oh, you can file a claim against him too, but like I said, most of the time you don't get to know who they are because they hide their identity and badges.
Right.
And if you don't, then go for the head. Why go for the little guys? Because yes, they are responsible, they are liable, but they're order takers. And eventually, just like Nuremberg, they will be held responsible too, if not just, morally, ethically. I mean, not be able to sleep at night. How do you sleep at night, doing this to people who are peaceful?
Okay, so then these people who were hit by the water cannons, then they could actually even go after the water cannon company owners?
Absolutely. Why not? Tackle
Okay, because now that we're talking about this, because we need to get this also out on the airwaves. I want to encourage everybody who's listening to think about making at least 1 or 2 calls, maybe 6 days a week. Take a day off and call into the radio stations. Call into CNN. Don't let it be the Clinton News Network. Call in so that when they take any kind of a phone call or an email, they can't escape this topic and start suing them. So hopefully, some of you listening out have some contacts who are there on the ground in North Dakota. So let's start to get them to think about the people who are owning the equipment that's being used against them and the people who are the bosses sending out these other guys. Get as many names as you can so we can start to take these guys down individually and collectively.
I'm trying to reach out to, I guess the leaders out in Dakota there, and I'm willing to, spend the time to teach people how to file the claims. And once you get it, it is like super, super simple. And it's designed that way for the common man to be able to obtain justice. And so, you can be anyone with, 0 education, and you should be able to file a claim because it's so simple. And the reason why the bar has all these statutes and regulations and legalese is because they don't want us to know the law. We can't understand it. It's the codes, right? And it's codes that they have created. And so the moment that you use these codes that are their creation, you end up in their jurisdiction. So the whole thing about common law is staying out of their jurisdiction and going back to the land. Common law is law of the land, and statutes and regulations, there's so many names for them, but, admiralty law, law of the sea, law of the pirates. And so, if you want to use their creation, then you're subject to their codes and whatever they make and break the law, on a dime. So why would anyone want to do that? I mean, when there's another option. So right. The Michigan Assembly is assembling the whole jural system. So there's, clerks, there are, I can't think right now, but a whole host of, positions that people can start on a county level to assimilate and assemble their own jural system to bypass the corrupt one. So, you don't want the corrupt one, then you better, learn about and start organizing for the de jure and have another option because it's available. And, the template's already there. The first MichiganAssembly.info website, everything is there, and they have, I think, a Thursday conference call where people can call in and ask questions. So they're more than willing to help. And it starts at the county level, and it starts with us. It starts with everybody. Because when I tell people about this, and they keep saying, we'll just wait. We'll just wait until. And I said, wait until what? Wait until whom? I'm telling you so that you can take up the ball and then pass the ball on. Not so that you can, wait until somebody else does it. Because this is what we've been doing, is just waiting.
Well, because the biggest fear is that right now the government has the power to force their edicts upon us. We'll end up in jail.
Government? Who's government?
Well, those who actually are claiming to be the government. Okay, I know that they're illegitimate and illegal and all the rest of it, but they still can send a SWAT team to my house. And how to prove that they don't have jurisdiction over me is really difficult, to make them back off, because they can say, okay, now I have eminent domain, or now I'm from the Department of Homeland Security, and sorry, all your rights are gone. Just like the the Native Americans shouldn't have to deal with the pipeline at all. Tracy put in here too that Indian tribal lands are a nation separate from any other nation, even if they exist within another nation. So when you look at it like that, yeah, what's your comment there?
Well, guess what? America is also a separate nation, and Hawaii is also a separate nation. And so, you know, as the Hawaiian kingdom had been illegally occupied, so had America been, and so had, you know, lots of other countries that we don't even realize have been taken over by this U.S. corporation. And the thing is that it does take numbers, and it does take awareness, and it does take an awakening, and it takes action. And for people, I understand there's a problem with enforcement, and this is the question that always arises is that enforcement. They've got all the guns, they've got all the, well, we've got a lot more people. And the thing is that it doesn't take, you know, it can't be just 1, 2 people standing up and doing this, because, you know, you can get knocked down and singled out very quickly. But it does take the masses awakening and saying, okay, we're not going to put up with this anymore. And so we're going to opt out, and we're going to do it. We can do this peacefully. So what are they going to do? I mean, you know, they can take everybody and put them in jail? I don't know, but I think it has to start somewhere. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but it has to start somewhere. And I think, you know, the education and the awareness that there is a way out. And it starts with accountability because, as you say, you know, we're fearing that there's going to be retribution for the people who speak up and are active. Well, sure, nobody's being held accountable. You know, the guy who's spraying water or who unleashes the dogs at these people and causing harm and injury, he's never held responsible. You know, and the guy who's calling for it, the governor, he's not held responsible. So it's business as usual, and you know, and nothing changes.
That's very true, although it does have to start with the individuals. And I know that there comes a time in your life where you're either going to look in the mirror and ask yourself the hard questions, or you're just going to abdicate your right to make a decision, you know. And we have been socially engineered through the school systems, through religion, through the unholy marriage of religion and politics that has always been there right in front of us, and all the lies. I mean, the voting and everything. When people voted, they don't understand either that they're voting for the same system that's stealing our money out of our pockets so that they can bomb these other countries. I was listening earlier today to Sibel Edmonds, and she's got a new podcast on there with her Newsbud, and she was talking about her 8-year-old daughter was going to school, and the school was forcing her daughter to vote either for Trump or Hillary. They refused to let her not participate. She had to vote for one or the other, and when she let them know, well, there are other people running, that was totally disavowed as well. It's like, sorry, you can only vote for green or actually red or blue, and that's it. No other choice, and you must do it. So when you have that kind of a system set up in the school, of course, when the daughter is going to be, you know, 25, 30, 40, she's gone through this whole schooling, she's going to be voting. She's going to think that, you know, that's what you do, except for Sibel Edmonds, her mother, didn't vote. And I'm really happy that 47% of people in this country, America, did not vote. I think we are starting to wake up, and I like the fact that this is about people coming together and agreeing to finally take a step. And we do have to take it locally. And I love the idea. I hadn't thought before about going to the owner of the company that has the water cannons, and the company that's, you know, putting up, letting them, the company actually that's manufacturing then those tasers that are being used. I don't know. I guess we can start getting creative here and really reaching out.
The thing is that it costs nothing to file a claim if you are indeed harmed or injured. And the reason why a lot of people have not been doing it is because they think, well, you have to get a lawyer, which means thousands of dollars, just to get it initiated. And then, you get a plea bargain. So there's really no justice there either. But it takes a lot of money and people don't know how, and it's a procedure and they make it as difficult as possible. With common law, it is so simple. It's like rolling off a log. The claim itself is half a page. It's 5 sentences. So anybody can put together 5 sentences. I'm a man, I've been harmed, and this is how I've been harmed, and I want, compensation. And so, it's there and it's available to the average man, woman, and it doesn't cost anything. And the thing about, us being so propagandized, it's astounding to me. I mean, now you can really visually see the effects of democracy, whereas, people have voted in this election for the U.S. corporation, the ones who have. And if you don't like the results, guess what? You can go out in the streets and you can cause mayhem and do what? I mean, that's the mob rule. So people are marching in the street because they don't like the results. And, the funny thing is that I couldn't believe it. When I had a good friend of mine email me and she said, I hope you're happy. You created this monster and you got him into office. And he's going to be disastrous and blah, blah, blah. And I said, wait, didn't I tell you that I don't even vote? I've opted out of the voters registration because I am not a citizen of the United States Incorporated. And so you're blaming me for the outcome of this election. And to be honest, anybody with common sense could see that it's one party. It's not even red and white. It's really purple because, the actions are similar. They say, oh, well, we're differences. See the differences? See, you have a choice. You have an option. You can be either Democrat or Republican. Nothing else, like you said, Karen. You can't be anything else other than Republican or Democrat. But the policies are the same.
Now, one thing, though, okay, so if you're going to sue, and you know that it's all corrupt, and you're talking about suing them and only the 5 lines and stuff, well, then where do you take it? You can't sue them in the regular court. I've heard that you should ask for, like, the court of record, but say you want to sue somebody, then where do you take it?
Well, the courthouse is the courthouse. It's our courthouse. We paid for it. So it has different venues. It hears different venues. So depending on how your paperwork is stylized, then it goes into, statutory court or it goes into common law, depending on how it's stylized. And so if you use statute...
Yeah, aren't you always supposed to use the common law court? Because statutory court just gets you raped by their system.
Yeah, the courthouse is just a courthouse. It's just a building. So a lot of people, mistake and say, well, you can't walk into the courthouse because it's their courthouse. Well, who said that? No, we paid for it. Didn't we pay for the clerk? Didn't we pay for all their salaries? So It is our courthouse. It's just that we've never been able, we never knew how to access a court of record, common law. Because of either we got a lawyer, which is part of their system, or we talk legalese and we write legalese, which is part of their system. So we end up in the statutory system, just because of our own ignorance. And so, if you know how to access, the Court of Record is there. It's in the 7th Amendment in the Constitution, so they have to allow it. Not that we need, the Constitution to allow it, but the Constitution is just kind of a playbook to let the public servants know how to serve us, the people. And we're the bosses, and we keep, turning the roles around. And we beg them, oh, please do this, oh, please do that. No. Where is it where you hire someone and they don't do their job and you wait 4 years to get them out of your house? Let's say you hire a house cleaner and she just sits around and does nothing and damages your furniture. Are you going to allow her to sit there for 4 years until you find somebody else?
Well, the only ones I know who would do that are some of the old Vietnam vets around here that would do it just to get a young woman in there. But otherwise, no, and we should fire them. I know Max Egan talks about they've all broken the trust, a breach of trust. And to me, too, the elections are just such a huge, huge disservice to us globally, and in every country where you have them, because all it does is prop up somebody to be like your mom or your dad. Here's your ruler. They'll take care of everything if you just vote for them. And if you really look at how the government took care of the Native Americans who were here to begin with and how they're still treating them, that's how government takes care of people. Stealing your land, raping your women, taking your children and forcing them to cut their hair and speak a new language. We've done such horrible things in the name of profit and in the name of, when people tell me they founded the United States on Christian values, it's like, those don't sound like Christian values to me, but then again, maybe they are. So it's just insane. So I know that we're getting to and I've got 10 minutes left. I do want to tease you with something, Gypsy, because I know that you're busy and you're farming over there, but you're talking about wanting to teach people how to file this, and I would be happy to have you join me like the first Monday of each month if you want to just do maybe one program a month to start telling us the steps to take. And so you might want to kick that around, because it'd be great to hear some real steps that we can take instead of everybody thinking, well, I'm going to be in trouble if I do this. I know that I've taken the step of blowing off my credit cards when I realized how much money they've paid in fines for lying to the people, for fixing the rates, the list of crimes is just ridiculous. They've paid billions of dollars, and I refuse to be an accomplice, to be a mark for the mafia every month, so where they can say, oh yeah, here's another stupid mark, she's going to pay me every month too. And I don't give a damn about their rating, because I don't want a good rating from the mafia. And there's a website called getoutofdebtfreenow.org that people can visit for that. And also, I've learned too by looking at the Michigan juries and some of the information that Gypsy sent me, that in order for there to be a legally binding contract, consideration has to be given from both sides, and consideration has to be something of value. And the banks give nothing because they make up the money. We are giving our time and our effort and our labor. So actually the whole contract is illegal to begin with. There's no consideration when they supposedly loan you money at the interest that can never be paid back. So there's so many things that we have going on that are wrong. We've got a lot of human wrongs, not human rights. And if we're going to change it, we have to unite, and we have to start looking at what's important, and that means protecting the planet that we live on. Gypsy, thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, and if you want, the first Monday in December, I'd love to have you come back and we can start to maybe hammer out how you do it.
Yeah, it's difficult just talking about it, because there are certain documents that people need to look at in order to understand, what I'm talking about. So I don't know how that's going to be accomplished on just a radio show, but maybe perhaps we can discuss that on another time. But thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate all that you do, Karen, because you've been at this for a long time, and also Patty. And I'll meet myself out. It's noise again. Thanks.
Okay, well, Gypsy, thank you. And I think that what we could do, if you wanted, is I can post the links in a chat room, and so we could kind of look at a piece of paper at the same time. We could go over it. But I want to thank everyone for listening today. And okay, tractor noise is outside. Yeah, you can't control people outside if they decide to do tractors. I know sometimes here I'd have people decide to cut the grass with the electric cutters just at that time. But what is really important now is that all of us really start to look in the mirror and to look at the social engineering that has brought us here, and to understand that these are the ending times, and they're either going to be ending times for the people or ending times for the corporations. And unless and until we can come together and unite. And what's beautiful about the Rainbow Warrior Tribe is these are people of all ages, creeds, and colors. I am not a Native American. My husband is part Dene and Apache, but I am not. I am Irish, half Irish, so I've got the Celtic spirit, a quarter Basque and a quarter German. But I'm just a person who has been my whole life really distraught by all of the horrors of war and just a mentality of profit over people. We will never be able to have true freedom in a world where profit is valued above the very people who create it. And if we are to turn the tide, then we've got to start coming at them from different vantage points. And if we can begin to hold these individuals accountable, that will make a huge bit of difference. Gypsy, if you've got silence back there and you want to come on again for another minute or so to have a few final words, that's good. I put all your links there in the chat room, so folks do have those. But if you got a couple more things to say, or did you drop out? There you are.
No, I'm still here, and I just wanted again to reach out to the people who have been harmed, who've been injured. That I'm willing to spend the time on an individual basis if necessary to help people, so that these people who have learned can help other people who are there, who are on the ground. And it's a simple process. And, you know, I know it's convoluted if you have to do the research yourself, but believe me, I spent years doing this. And so I think I've got it down as far as the claim goes. And so, you know, what do we have to lose? And perhaps this is, you know, part of why we're here. This is part of what is happening. And it doesn't matter if we're Native, you know, Hawaiian or Native American or Native. We're all Native somewhere, you know, once upon a time. And we're all people. And I boil it down to just that. We're just men and women born on the land. And so we have all the rights bestowed to us, you know, and there's nobody greater other than God. Nobody controls us. We're sovereigns, and that's what sovereign means. Until you do harm to another, do as you wish, live and be happy. And this is, you know, this is what we're meant to why we're meant to be here. But, you know, we're here for this is happening now for a reason. And I think it's the experience, and it's to learn why we're put here on this planet at this point in time. So I think we should take advantage of it and stop being victims.
I agree, and I'm really happy to have you, Gypsy. We will be in touch, and hopefully you will be back many times to join me, because I have a lot to learn from you, and it's nice to be able to actually have some steps to take. And Patty, Walking Turtle, will be following me with Turtle Talk next, and I'd like to again say thank you for listening. And my final thoughts today are: Rainbow warriors rise. It's time to realize we've got to break through their lies. Rainbow warriors rise. Rainbow warriors rise. Can't you hear our children's cries? Our sons and daughters, they're breaking. All our freedom they're taking. It is time to rise. It is time to rise. Namaste. Thank you for listening. Patty, I'm handing it back over to you for a song or to pop in. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Tracy, for broadcasting this also on your station. And thank you in the chat room, Patty, and I guess Barbara, you are at 3 Crow, and I see some other new names there. So thank you, Ham Radio Forever, and Natives Warrior. And over to you, Patty. Namaste, and I'll be back next Monday, same time, same station.